Test, test. I think the audio is back. No one said anything. Do we have audio now? Test, test, test. It should be good. A message. Went 2 minutes without audio here. Hope the audio is better right now. Before I start, I just want to make sure that it is confirmed so we can go through this again. Yeah, okay, thanks guys, I appreciate it. So, sorry, I was just saying that the inflation data came out today as we have a lot of news that's coming out throughout the session and pre-market as well. We had Fed's Barkin that opened things up in the morning session at 8 a.m. We had Goldman Sachs earnings, Goldman Sachs earnings are going to be coming out at the open. We have JP Morgan earnings call that came out at 3:30 my time or 8:30 a.m. We've got Fed's Barkin speaking very soon at 9:20. We've got Kashkari at 10. We've got Williams at 11. We've got Goolsby at 12. So a lot of Fed speakers along with earnings that are coming through here. The inflation data, yesterday we had PPI, which came in slightly better than expected and in line with expectations. Although higher than the previous print, it still opened up some kind of bullish momentum. The CPI here pretty much in line with expectations, and the core CPI 3.2% versus 3.3%. I'm getting this from Financial Juice, so shout out them. But 3.3% expected, prior was 3.3 on the core year over year. 3.2 came out, so that was slightly better than expected. The core month over month, slightly better than expected. So in line and slightly better, ensued a pop here in these equities on the overnight session. One of the big things is that we'll talk about soon is that we've left behind a trail of just super low volume, which I have the expectation that it's a fragile move. Right now, currently, we are sitting bullish. It's just the issue right now with these bullish auctions is that the overnight really doesn't give it too much support structure, which could easily be cleaned up to the downside. When we have these larger expansive moves on the overnight, there's an expectation that we would see a fade, an initial take profit movement before we start to see some kind of continuation, if we see some kind of continuation. So there are two key factors and two key areas on the S&P and on the NASDAQ that you have to watch out for just in case that downside actually does open up more aggressively and we completely fade this move. I stopped being bullish below 59, 20, 25 on the ES, and then below the 21, 140, 130 on NASDAQ, it gets very rocky from there, especially under 21,000. So those are huge areas to watch out for and keep in mind. Now, we're kicking off earnings here. Let's go here, JP Morgan, if it wants to load. But a flood of corporate earnings with top banks on Wall Street ready to kick off festivities. Investors in the sector, guidance may be very important and more. Reloading this JP Morgan chart. So let me just go into JP Morgan here. Gapping up on this earnings, JP Morgan holding pretty strong, but markets are now factoring less rate cuts, so the guidance is going to be very important to see what is presented, if any, in 2025. Remember, Bank of America is talking about a potential rate hike, actually. Interest rates remain relatively elevated despite the Fed cutting by 100 basis points over the past quarter, which could help drive banks closely. Watch their watch net interest income along with loan growth and the strong economy. Coming up this morning, like I said, JP Morgan, Goldman Sachs, Citigroup, Wells Fargo. They'll be followed by the quarterly numbers from Morgan Stanley and Bank of America tomorrow. There are also a whole host of regional players, asset managers, credit card companies, and other financial institutions reporting over the next week. And financials usually kick off the earnings season. I don't think that Goldman Sachs reported just yet. I could be wrong. Yeah, they did. So I think all these banks report. I think their earnings calls are going to be off of the open or after the open. Big banks have significantly outperformed the market over the past year, climbing around 46%, which is huge on average. Over the over the double. It's over double the 22% that the S&P saw. The Fed pivot also helped bolster the sector as well as the election of Donald Trump to the White House, and investors are now banking on lighter regulatory environment and business-friendly agendas, which can help in pickup in it could help in a pickup in loan organizations and an IPO comeback and more investment banking revenue amid a strong M&A. So even those that are not invested in the banking industry will closely be watching the upcoming results. Non-interest revenue will detail the state of the capital markets activity, while provisions for credit losses can provide a window into how well banks expect the economy to hold up. Consumer spending will also be in the spotlight, so don't forget comments on the macro situation or on recent trends of rising bond yields. The issue that I have with this movement on a news event on the overnight is volume is still very low. You can see it's a very thin, unfinished auction that's been left behind on the S&P futures here. So it's very fragile in my opinion. We have that 49.50 area, which is an immediate support structure, but realistically, my continuation or failure of this bull trend can pull us back all the way to 59.20.25, which is my expectation to try and hold these guys up for that continuation. You lose that, you can use that as a pivot today, because you lose that, I think that this upside pump is going to be fairly dismantled. We came into a key area. I thought we'd go a little higher, 59.85, 59.90, before we started to see some of that sell pressure into the top of the auction and this heaviness of volume from January 7th. So I'll leave you guys with that. Sorry for the technical difficulties today. Tomorrow we'll do a stream, I believe, in the afternoon. So I'll see you guys on YouTube. We'll talk a bit more about that tomorrow in the morning session. But in the meantime, go check out community.tradeproacademy.com, and we'll see you there. Let's open up our live room this morning and see what we can come up with. So now that news is gone, the next piece of information is going to be well, I guess not a piece of information, but the next quote-unquote event is going to be